I want to have my answers now, you hear? In the capital of light and illusion, where every wrinkle was erased by powder and flashbulbs, Hollywood was once seen as the sanctuary of absolute perfection. There, only bodies measured to the millimeter could survive. The camera was so merciless that even a tiny scar could end a dream of fame. But few knew that behind those layers of carefully staged makeup were stars who carried within themselves deformities, irregularities, and physical marks so unusual that doctors recorded them in textbooks. Some were born with violet eyes as rare as gemstones. Others viewed the world through a glass eye. Some had faces swollen by pituitary disorders. And a few stood barely 1 meter tall due to skeletal dysplasia. So who were the Hollywood stars with the most extraordinary bodies? And did those differences lift them to stardom or drag them into tragedy? Number 1, Elizabeth Taylor. Violet eyes and a rare genetic condition. On a winter morning in 1932 at Hampstead Hospital, London, the midwife thought the light made the baby's eyes appear purple. It didn't. Elizabeth Taylor truly had lavender-colored irises, clear as quartz. The rarity didn't stop there. Doctors noted a condition called dystasis, 2 rows of eyelashes growing naturally from the same eyelid linked to the FOXC2 gene. When she signed with MGM in 1942, the crew had to switch lenses and lower the lighting intensity because the violet halo reflected around her pupils created a slight glare on film, what cinematographers then described as metallic shimmer. Beauty came at a cost. The double lashes irritated her corneas, and the heat of the studio lights overstimulated her tear. Ducts Taylor had to stop filming periodically to apply glycerin drops and once suffered corial inflammation during the Butterfield 8 promotion in 1960. Beverly Hills doctors warned of temporary vision blurring under prolonged heat. And MGM's makeup staff always carried a personal eye rinsing kit for her. On the Cleopatra set in Rome in 1963, several outdoor scenes under sunlight caused swelling, forcing a schedule change to avoid high radiation hours. The uniqueness also fueled a media storm. In June 1964, when Los Angeles Times published photos of Taylor and Richard Burton behind the scenes of Cleopatra, her lavender dress inspired the headline, "The Purple Affair." Comment sections repeatedly mentioned her hypnotic gaze as the spark that ignited their romance. Her sensitive eyes limited her ability to wear colored contact lenses for special effects, and cosmetic contracts had to include corneal protection clauses. At premieres during the 1970s, she avoided direct flash photography because it caused instant pain. Photographers were told to use soft reflectors. Her legend ended in 2011 in Los Angeles when Dr. Howard Braverman confirmed what the public had debated for decades. The violet color was real, and so were the double lashes. In an industry built on illusion, Taylor's natural rarity was both a charm and a lifelong occupational hazard, from eyes no one believed could exist. The story turns to Hollywood's brightest smile, one held together by porcelain and adhesive. Number 2, Clark Gable, the metal-scented smile of a Hollywood king. In 1933, Clark Gable had all his teeth extracted at a Beverly Hills dental hospital due to severe gum disease. From that moment on, the King of Hollywood lived with a full set of porcelain dentures fixed by zinc adhesive, which left a metallic aftertaste. During It Happened One Night, 1934, colleagues heard faint clicks during his lines. And by Gone with the Wind, 1939, the film crew had to choreograph kissing scenes between Gable and Vivien Leigh because of the glue's strong odor under the hot carbon arc lights. Mint candies and strong mouthwash were used to mask the smell, but the chemical residue on his gums lingered. The side effects lasted for decades. The adhesive caused gum irritation and occasional loosening during long dialogues. Some emotional scenes in The Tall Men, 1955, had to be reshot due to muffled speech. In private life, he carried replacement glue and used strong disinfectants that left a metallic scent on his clothes. Gossip columns joked about his expensive kisses, but the real toll was chronic discomfort, pain while eating, and the mental strain of maintaining an illusion of perfection. His private life bore that mark too. During his 3-year marriage to Carole Lombard, jokes about his metal smile filled the tabloids. After Lombard's tragic plane accident in 1942, witnesses said Gable insisted on keeping his dentures in during the funeral. As if afraid of losing the face the world adored, later, he avoided long kissing scenes, preferred medium close shots, and chose roles with fewer extended lines to prevent the glue from cracking during takes. When he passed away in 1960, Medical records confirmed he had lived nearly 30 years without a single natural tooth. That reconstructed smile was the bright side of the silver screen and the lingering taste of chemicals beneath it. From that, the story shifts to another pair of eyes, bulging, intense, and unforgettable. Number 3. Bette Davis, the fierce eyes that became a trademark. In June 1934 at Warner Brothers, B. Davis's gaze froze the audition room. Her narrow eye sockets made her eyeballs appear more prominent, the upper lids lifted high, and her pupils dilated strongly under light. The resulting intensity was something cameras adored, but people often found unsettling. The biological side effects weren't pleasant. Dryness, glare sensitivity, and headaches due to overactive focusing reflexes under classic studio lighting. Several close-ups of human bondage required artificial tears, and some shoots had to reduce exposure to avoid glare reflections. The impact extended beyond the camera. In the 1930s, tabloids mocked her as froggy, and Warner Brothers received letters urging a softer image. She was repeatedly advised to undergo eyelid surgery to reduce protrusion, but doctors warned the risk of scarring and muscle damage could impair her expressions. Davis refused, enduring eye pain to keep her most powerful tool. Her unusual appearance also caused professional clashes. Davis demanded roles built around her piercing gaze, refusing passive female parts. Tensions with Warner peaked between 1942 and 1944 when she sued for role control, and the press called her the actress who stares through directors' die. On Whatever Happened to Baby Jane 1962, her long feud with Joan Crawford exploded on set. A fall that required 8 stitches became headline news. Less known is that after the accident, doctors restricted bright lighting on Davis due to her sensitivity, forcing crew adjustments for the final scenes. In later years, Davis refused any cosmetic eye procedures. On CBS Sunday Morning in 1980, she said bluntly that keeping her money-making eyes was a professional choice. The physical discomfort and judgment never dulled her power. They turned that intense stare into a visual signature of an era. From eyes that could unsettle anyone, the story moves to another man's half-lidded gaze. One eye real, one glass, but both seeing through pretense. Number 4. Willie Nelson, the fiery face and rope-like hands. Few stars ever gave Hollywood's cameramen as much trouble because of blood vessels. Born in 1933 in Abbott, Texas, Willie Nelson stood out early for his perpetually flushed face as if sunburned for life. Many assumed it was part of his cowboy tan, but in truth, Nelson suffered from facial telangiectasia, a condition where hundreds of small blood vessels appear under the skin, forming a red-purple web around his nose and cheeks. Under stage or studio lights, his face reflected like burnished copper, forcing crews to apply cool-toned powder to reduce glare. During the 1970s, as Nelson transitioned into acting from the Electric Horseman to Honeysuckle Rose, makeup artists joked, "No need for the Texas filter. His skin glows naturally." But it wasn't just aesthetics. The condition came with chronic eyelid inflammation, making his eyes swell and water under strong light. A Nashville doctor once advised him to avoid late-night performances, but Nelson brushed it off, saying, "I was born to burn, not to cool." His hands were equally distinctive. Thin skin, thick veins coiled like cords, partly inherited, partly sculpted by decades of guitar playing. His hands looked like those of someone pulled from fire. Every knuckle a knot of endurance. Yet those same hands shaped the sound of outlaw country. Nelson once told Rolling Stone in 1981, "The veins in my hands are music. They know when I'm happy or hurting." His unusual appearance fueled rumors. Some said he drank too much whiskey, bursting his capillaries. Others claimed he tattooed red veins to stand out on stage. Both were false. In his memoir, It's a Long Story, Nelson wrote, "My skin is red because my heart beats strong. If I had to choose between white powder and real blood, I'd choose blood." In a world of polished male stars, Willie Nelson appeared as a blazing cowboy, strange yet authentic. The world looked at him with curiosity. He looked back through half-closed, red-lined eyes, the eyes of a man who had seen too many lights. And across the country there was another man, one who had only a single real eye yet could see straight through deceit. Number 5. Peter Falk, the glass eye that made. Columbo legendary. Before the world met the rumpled detective in a shabby trench coat from Columbo, few knew Peter Falk had only one real eye. At age 3, he was diagnosed with retinal blasto at Mount Sinai Hospital, New York. Doctors removed his left eye to stop the tumor from spreading to his brain. From then on, Falk lived with a glass eye so well craft-drafted that even colleagues forgot. At 25, when he applied to the CIA, he was rejected immediately for visual impairment. Turning to acting, Falk faced similar bias. A Broadway director once told him, "You can act, but I can't film a man with one eye." Variety quoted that line in 1957, angering Falk so much that he rented a small stage in Greenwich Village to perform independently. From then, his uneven gaze began to write history. When he appeared in Murder, Inc.'s 1960, audiences realized that his difference made his characters truly menacing. One eye moving, the other still, evoking eerie calm. Critic Pauline Kael called him a man with the gaze of truth. Director Richard Levinson, who created Columbo, later said that Falk's half-lazy, half-probing stare inspired the character of the seemingly clumsy yet brilliant detective. Oddly, Falk rarely let anyone see him without the prosthetic, but on The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson in 1978, he amused audiences by telling how he once lost it while swimming in Malibu. The story drew laughter, but also revealed deep insecurity beneath the humor. Off-screen, Falk's life was equally turbulent. He married twice and was later sued by his adopted daughter, Catherine, for cutting off contact. In old age, he developed Alzheimer's, often confusing himself with his character Columbo. Los Angeles Times wrote, "He no longer knew which eye was glass, which gaze was real." When Peter Falk passed in 2011, thousands left flowers and magnifying glasses outside his Beverly Hills home, honoring the man whose half-real eyes saw through the world's illusions. Coincidentally, decades before him, Hollywood had already witnessed another man unforgettable for his own bulging eyes. Number 6. Peter Lorre, bulging eyes and an asymmetric face from thyroid overactivity. If Hollywood had a face that made the world feel both fear and sympathy, it was Peter Lorre. Born in Hungary in 1904, Lorre grew up with illness. An overactive thyroid caused his eyes to protrude, his pupils to stay wide, and his face to become asymmetric. Doctors called it a classic presentation of Graves' disease, but audiences saw it as the most haunting gaze they had ever encountered. When he first appeared in the German film M, A City Hunts a Murderer, 1931, Lorre was just 26. The bulging eyes, slight hand tremor, and whispering voice made the character of a murderer feel too real. Berlin audiences were shaken, and director Fritz Lang declared, "I couldn't find a face more haunting than his." The film brought Peter Lorre to Hollywood, but also tied him to the image of the madman. In the 1940s, Lorre played a string of antagonists in The Maltese Falcon in Casablanca. American viewers were fascinated by eyes that seemed about to fall out, and a Life magazine reporter described him as having a Gazake glass overheated. Meanwhile, colleague Humphrey Bogart revealed that Laurier had to wear sunglasses offset because bright lights caused him sharp discomfort. Behind the camera, Lorre was solitary. For years, he relied on the sedative Veronal to control tremors caused by his thyroid condition. In 1946, he nearly died from an overdose after a Beverly Hills party. His physician, Dr. Leo Shapiro, wrote in a medical report that Peter Lorre survived miraculously, but his eyes would never return to normal. Rumors around Lorre never stopped. The New York Daily News once hinted he was haunted by James Dean's death. Because after Dean's funeral in 1955, Lorre was seen at Fairmount Cemetery at midnight. Though unproven, the story only deepened his mystique. When Lorre died of a stroke in 1964, director John Huston said those eyes were still open. A detail both real and chilling. Eyes that would not close even after the spirit had gone. Hollywood seemed done with unsettling physical differences. But a few years later, another man appeared. He didn't need makeup to become a creature on screen. He was the real thing. And people called him Rondo Hatton. Number 7. Rondo Hatton, the man with a swollen face from a pituitary disorder. If Peter Lorre frightened audiences with his eyes, Rondo Hatton unnerved them with his face. Born in 1894 in Florida, Hatton had once been a handsome, athletic track star, tall with balanced features. But at 25, everything began to change. His nose enlarged, his lower jaw jutted forward, his cheekbones swelled, and his hands and feet grew thick and heavy. Doctors at Johns Hopkins confirmed acromegaly, a pituitary disorder that makes bones keep growing. The condition completely altered Hatton's face, and Hollywood took notice. In 1936, when the Orlando Sentinel ran a piece titled "The Handsomest Man in Tampa," Hatton was still a sports reporter. A year later, as his features changed more dramatically, The paper reprinted an old photo beside a current one with the chilling caption, "The man betrayed by his own body." The article caught the eye of a Universal Studios director, and Hatton was invited to Hollywood. On the screen, he needed no makeup. In The Pearl of Death, 1944, Hatton played the Creeper, a towering, distorted figure. Audiences trembled, but producers were pleased. They had found a real-life terror without special effects. The Los Angeles Examiner called him the real fright of Hollywood. Off-screen, Hatton was the opposite. Gentle and quiet, he lived with his wife May in a small Glendale home. Neighbors said he loved growing orchids and keeping dogs, but he wore a wide-brimmed hat in public to avoid children shouting and running after him. In a 1945 interview, Hatton said sadly, "I make a living from a face that scares people." In 1946, while filming House of Horrors, acromegaly strained his heart and he passed away in his sleep at 51. Universal released the film after his death with the tag starring Rondo Hatton, the man too real for makeup. His passing closed the era of real-life oddities in Hollywood. But it also posed a question. Does the line between art and cruelty still exist when illness is turned into entertainment? That question becomes even clearer with the next figure. A legend of the Barrymore family who spent half his life in a wheelchair yet captivated America. Number 8. Lionel Barrymore. She starred in a wheelchair for life due to arthritis. Hollywood was once accustomed to seeing Lionel Barrymore at MGM laughing, puffing a pipe, and guiding young actors like a king. But in 1938, as young Dr. Kildare began production, people noticed Barrymore could no longer walk normally. Each time, director Norman Taro called, "Action!" He gripped the armrest, lips tight from hip pain. A month later, Variety ran a small note on page 3. Barrymore hospitalized with severe arthritis. No one knew it would be the last time he would stand on his own legs. His condition wasn't an accident. Throughout the 1930s, he endured relentless pain from degenerative arthritis, yet kept working. Doctors at Cedars of Lebanon warned, "If you don't rest, you'll be disabled." Barrymore laughed. "I was born to stand on a film set, not lie in a sickbed." By 1939, he had lost the ability to walk. Many thought his career was over, yet a year later he returned as Mr. Potter in It's a Wonderful Life. On screen, he sat motionless in a wheelchair, but his deep voice and cold gaze held theaters silent. The New York Times critic Bosley Crowther wrote, "Barrymore doesn't need his legs to command an audience." Few knew that during his final MGM years, Barrymore became dependent on morphine, prescribed for pain. The Los Angeles Examiner ran a piece, King in Chains, about his quiet reliance on medication. The studio hired a private physician to stay on set because when the dose wore off, the pain made him drop the script. Even so, he insisted on acting and even advised on staging wheelchair scenes to give people with disabilities a portrayal that was accurate and strong on screen. When he died in 1954, Barrymore's wheelchair was kept at MGM as a symbol of unyielding will. Critic Leonard Moulton once wrote, "If Hollywood had a throne, Lionel Barrymore ruled it, even with trembling hands." The story of a man imprisoned by his own body earned respect. Then, decades later, another figure made the world look at his scarred face, not with pity, but with admiration. Number 9. Seal, a face marked by lupus, yet still a symbol of allure. His songs have been streamed over 1 billion times. Give it up for the one and only. Over the years, he's had some killer hits, selling more than 30 million records worldwide. When I started making music, or I didn't play guitar at the time, and I was making these demos, and they were kind of in 1984 at a dermatology clinic in London, a doctor named Simon Glover wrote in a chart, "Patient Henry Samuel, severe scarring, suspected cutaneous lupus. At 21, the young man had no idea the newly diagnosed autoimmune condition would redraw his face and define a global music icon. Disco lupus erythematosus causes the immune system to attack facial skin, creating inflamed patches that heal into deep pitted scars around the nose and cheeks. Many told Seal to get cosmetic procedures or hide behind heavy foundation, but he refused. My face has already fought," he told BBC Radio 1 in 1991. "I don't want it to pretend." The media in Britain was far from kind. The Sun ran scars of the star, dubbing him the marked man. Seal was angry, but still appeared on top of the pops barefaced. When Crazy was released that same year, his scarred face was everywhere. Fashion magazines called it real beauty, and Rolling Stone wrote, Seal has turned a flaw into a legend. The journey wasn't smooth. Seal said he spent years sleepless under public pressure. He was treated with cortisone, which thinned his skin and made it more fragile. In the 1990s, he lived in a small Notting Hill flat and avoided mirrors for months. Only when Kiss from a Rose won Grammys in 1996 did he look calmly into the camera again. Today, Seal still performs worldwide with the same unaltered face. In a Hollywood that favors retouching and procedures, he stands as living proof of authentic beauty, something that can't be copied. Yet, if Seal moved the world with his scars, the next man left audiences even more stunned. Number 10, Michael Berryman, dubbed as the man without hair, nails, or sweat glands. In the delivery room at Santa Monica Hospital in 1948, the attending doctor added a special note: male newborn, no hair, thin nails, no sweat glands. The parents, a nurse and a Navy officer, fell silent as the doctor explained their son had hypohidrotic ectodermal dysplasia, a rare genetic disorder in which structures derived from the ectoderm, hair, teeth, nails, sweat glands don't form correctly. The baby Michael Berryman was born with fragile skin, no hair, no eyebrows or eyelashes, and irregular teeth. Michael's childhood teetered between life and danger. Without sweat glands, he couldn't go outside when temperatures rose above 25 to 77 degrees. The family set up a special air-conditioned room that ran constantly. In high school in Los Angeles, classmates called him the Glass Boy. He once collapsed from heat on the schoolyard and was saved when a nurse doused him with water. That difference is what drew Hollywood to him. One afternoon in 1976, director Wes Craven saw Berryman at a cafe in Venice Beach. The smooth, hairless head and taut, wax-like skin made Craven stop. He asked, "Ever thought about acting?" A year later, Berryman's image appeared on the poster for The Hills Have Eyes. A hairless face, blank stare, half smile, no makeup, no CGI. The theater went silent. Empire journalist Kim Newman wrote, "Michael Berryman isn't playing a creature. He embodies primal fear, difference itself." On set, the crew built mobile shade canopies to protect him from 43-degree and 110-degree desert heat in Nevada. He drank more than 8 liters of water a day, yet persevered through a 3-month shoot. Away from set, Michael was the opposite of his screen image. He read philosophy, played guitar, and loved caring for cats. In a 1983 Entertainment Tonight interview, when asked if he ever wanted to be normal, he answered, "I'm different, but not unhappy." Now in his 70s, Michael Berryman still attends horror conventions and signs for fans. He emerged from a body once labeled abnormal by medicine, but with resolve and kindness. He showed the world that difference can be beautiful. His story paved the way for a generation of shorter-statured performers who proved that no matter how unusual the body, the spotlight always has room for them.